Okay, guys, how you guys doing? Talking about winging it. I don't plan any of this, but it comes to me to do something, and I say I'll do it on a video maybe, and then I try to do it because I try to do what I say. I said I'd do a video on the secrets of rock and roll music theory, but exclusive, not excluding rhythm this time. I'm just talking about the notes. That means melody and harmony, not the sound. Not the rhythm, but just the notes of rock and roll, the music theory of it. It came to me today. I kind of knew it, but it didn't come to me all together until today. And then I realized not only did it all come together, but I realized that I had it. So I want to give you guys this. This is important to me because this is a. I'm not sure how many people know this. Maybe no. Now you guys all will. So that might change that number, won't it? All right. The music theory of rock and roll. Take this or leave it, but here it is. Is a combination of the blues and European musical harmony. First, European harmony. That is major and minor scales, diatonic, and more specifically, major scales. And then specifically within that, modes of major scales. So if you don't, the modes are, you know the names of them. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixed Lydian, Aeolian, Locrian. All right, the blues part mixed in with that is just as hard to talk about. It's equal to that in hardness, believe me. Blues is three things to me. Just to me it is. It's the structure, it's the progression, it's the melodic concept. So we have to talk about that a little bit first so we know what we're talking about with blues, and then we can combine the blues with the European, they both start with E, European musical harmony, and then we'll get a theory of rock and roll. Because rock and roll was basically blues changed by white guys that had come here from Europe. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So the blues, the first of all, the structure is not as important because that's not important as much, but I'll just go into it a little bit. Structure of blues is 12 bars. That's different from most music, which is, most music is in 4-bar units. But most of the time, the number of units is an even number. So if you have 2 units, that's 8 bars. If you have 4 units, that's 16. If you have 8 units, that's 32. Blues has units of 4 also, but they make 3 of them, which is an odd number. So three groups of 4 bars is 12, which is odd and different because usually it's 8 or 16, but 12 is right in the middle. So that's all it is, as far as the structure, is the number of bars in the structure. But that's not important for the actual theory of the notes and the harmonies, but it's there. There's a structure involved in blues that I'm not going to go into right now because it's not part of the topic, but it is part of blues and I'm discussing it. Next is the harmonic progression, the progression of blues, and that is important. Progression is 1-4-5, which is also could be considered tonic, dominant, and subdominant. Actually, tonic is 1. 4 is subdominant, 5 is dominant. There's the 3 chords, and then there's a unique fact with blues in the fact that those 3 chords are all dominant 7th chords. Not major triads, not minor triads, not major 7th chords, not minor 7th chords, not in any one particular only key. Because if you take 3 dominant 7th chords on 1, 4, and 5, they're not all in the same key. They're all in different keys, but it works within blues. That's that concept I will talk about. Then the third concept is actually just as important. It may be more, but is the fact that the melody that goes behind these dominant 7th chords has a minor 3rd to it. Now that's what's unique about blues too. It's major harmony because dominant 7th chords have a major 3rd, which makes it major in nature, but with a melody has the minor 3rd. Therefore, it's that you're playing a major harmony with a minor melody. And usually the minor is considered like a minor pentatonic, or maybe a blues scale, which is a minor pentatonic with an added flat 5, which still makes it a minor type scale. But I said we're going to mix it with the European modalism, and we're going to combine that with the progression of the 3 chords in blues that are all dominant 7th chords, 1, 4, and 5. Please try to get this. It's got me, I'm 56, and it just now came to me today, so let's try to get this. If I were like I was at Harvey Mudd, I'd say I don't want to tell you guys, but that's not me anymore. I give what I have. So there you have it. All right, let's pick a key. Let's pick A. It's a cool key. Okay, so in A, forget about the number of bars. Forget about the structure, 12-bar blues, whatever. First, the chords. Okay, an A dominant 7th chord is the 1 chord. That's that's an A major chord with an added minor seventh, which would be G. Then you're going to go. Then the fourth chord is a D dominant seventh chord. That's also a D major chord with an added flat seven, which would be a C. Then finally the E dominant seventh, which is an E major chord with an added flat seven with it, which is a D. So you got the three chords. Now these chords, before I get in, these chords are all in different keys because technically an A dominant seventh chord is in the key of D major. Okay, or you could call it A mixolydian because the fifth mode of D major is mixolydian, and A dominant seventh is the fifth, is on the fifth note, fifth scale step of the D major scale. So that's just basically you're talking about A mixolydian. Okay, that's the fifth mode of D major scale, but that you can get into that. But I said modalism about European harmony, didn't I? I didn't say strict classical. I said modalism. So let's do that. A mixolydian. Then the fourth chord is D mixolydian, by the same concept as before. That would be the fifth mode of G major. So I'm not going to say G major. I'm going to say D mixolydian, and then finally E mixolydian. But that's actually the fifth mode of A major. But I'm not going to say A major. I'm going to say E mixolydian. So far we have A mixolydian, D mixolydian, and E mixolydian. We're getting there. Now, what did I say about the melody of these? I said that these all had minor thirds in the melody, minor chords on the melody. So this is a dominant seventh chord, but I'm going to play an A minor pentatonic over that. It's going to sound. It's still going to sound good because we like that sound. For some reason, we like that. Now I'll do the same thing with, so you have an A minor pentatonic scale. Let's just stick with that for now. Then you're going to go to D dominant seventh, but then you're going to have a D minor pentatonic over that. So I'll move that up to here, and then play a D minor pentatonic over that. And finally the E dominant seventh, but that's going to be an E minor pentatonic. So I'm going to play it up here. So far I have, and essentially into a blues progression in A, you actually have A minor pentatonic, E minor pentatonic, E minor pentatonic. We're getting there. So the three scales acceptable are A minor pentatonic, D minor pentatonic, and E minor pentatonic. Okay, but what did I say about European modalism? I'm not going to stick with pentatonics. I'm going to go to the European side and make it a seven-note scale, make a modal out of it. Well, if a dominant seventh chord is a mixolydian mode, then the next logical thing is that a minor seventh, a minor pentatonic scale, believe it or not, is actually a Dorian mode if you spread it out. So what I really have is A Dorian over the A mixolydian, over the A dominant seventh. Very common in rock. And for the D dominant seventh, I'm going to have a D Dorian. And for the E dominant seventh, I'm going to have an E Dorian. Essentially, for blues in A, I have A Dorian, D Dorian, and E Dorian. We're almost there. I haven't said that yet, but now we actually are. But what if you take those three scales, A Dorian, D Dorian, and E Dorian, and make them all in the key of A? Because we actually are in A blues, aren't we? Okay. Now here's where the European modalism comes into play again. In A Dorian, I'm actually just playing A Dorian. But here's what hit me today, along with all the rest I just told you, is that if you have a D Dorian, what you really are saying is that's an A Aeolian. So over the fourth chord in the blues, you actually shift you flat the Dorian of A to flat the minor 6 of it to make it A Aeolian, which gives you another harmony that another scale choice you can use. So you actually have A Aeolian now. So you have A Dorian, because that's the one chord, A, and then A, because that's a minor pentatonic, and that's Dorian, and we said that. But now for the A dominant 7th, for the D dominant 7th, you're going to have D Dorian, but that's actually also A Aeolian. So far we have A Dorian and A Aeolian. We're getting there. Now for E dominant 7th, I said we have E Dorian, but that is actually A Mixolydian, because A Mixolydian is E Dorian. So while you're playing the E Dorian, it's also A Mixolydian. So now we have, now we're wrapping it up now actually. For the center of rock and roll scale theory is Dorian, because that's the one chord in the blues progression shifted down to minor 3rd, and then that's the minor pentatonic, and that becomes A Dorian, and that's A Dorian. But the other two on either side are, you can play A Aeolian, that's for the 4 chord, or you can play A Mixolydian, that's for the 5 chord. So basically, for rock and roll scale harmony theory, you have Dorian in the middle is the main scale, but then you can go either side by one step. You can go flat down one side to Aeolian, or sharp up one side to Mixolydian, because Mixolydian is a Dorian with a sharp 3rd or major 3rd, and a Aeolian is a Dorian with a flatted 6. So in one case you flat one note to make it Aeolian, in the case you sharp a note to make it Mixolydian, and in the middle you have Dorian. And there you have it. That is how and why in rock and roll music theory you almost always use mainly Dorian, but then once in a while Aeolian, and then once in a while Mixolydian, and guess what? Once in a while a mixture of either 2 or all 3. But as long as you play Dorian as a forefront, but you can go to Aeolian, you can go to Mixolydian. Some songs are totally in Mixolydian, but sometimes they just play Dorian a little bit. Some songs are in Aeolian, but you just play Dorian a little bit. Some songs are in Dorian, and you just play Dorian. Some songs are in Dorian, and you play Aeolian. Some songs are in Dorian, and you play some Mixolydian. And some songs are in Dorian, and you play Aeolian and Mixolydian. And guess what I'm going to do? As an example, I'm going to show a song that is actually my favorite song on the first Jimi Hendrix album is Third Stone from the Sun, which is also my favorite Jimi Hendrix song, which is also my favorite song in all time. It's my favorite song of all time is the Third Stone from the Sun by Jimi Hendrix Experience. I'm not even sure completely why, I just like it. I'm going to play it a little bit, show it to you. It's in the key E, but it's going to use E Aeolian, E Dorian, and E Mixolydian. It's going to use all 3 modes. And that's a good example. No example is probably perfect, and no example is the only example, but this is the example I choose, and it's pretty good. So, we're in E, we can play Dorian, Mixolydian, or Aeolian. Now, you can all look up in a book how to play this song and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go over it. I'm going to show you what each key, what mode I'm in at any given time, and show you the parts, and you can see what I'm talking about. It's a good example of this song. So Jimi Hendrix is playing this, okay? The greatest, probably all-time rock guitarist. He's not greater than Adam Holdsworth, and he's not alive today, but he's the greatest all-time rock guitarist to me. Eddie Van Halen's number 2, Randy's number 3, and my favorite living guitarist is Steve Vai. Rock and roll, my favorite overall is Alan Holdsworth. So that's going on and on. So he starts with this. It starts like this. He goes. Now so far that's, you could call it E. You could call it E6 to D6, but I'm not sure I like that. I think I like C sharp minor 7th to B minor 7th, but it's just the same way. It's a different name for the same thing. I like C sharp minor 7th to B minor 7th. That's what I call those chords. Now, it just so happens that those 2 chords make up E Mixolydian. We'll do the math. That's E Mixolydian so far. C sharp minor 7th to B minor 7th. That's E Mixolydian so far. Then he goes. And that's just droning on E, but then also a D 5th chord, or D power chord, or D 5th interval. Actually very clever, but doesn't define anything new. That basically can be Aeolian, Dorian, or Mixolydian. And then he goes. I'm just savoring this. That. And believe it or not, that is actually this. All right, there you have it. That is actually E Dorian. So I'm making my point, aren't I? This part is E Mixolydian. This part is E Dorian. So now he's already used Mixolydian and Dorian, and we're barely into the song. All right, that's E Dorian. Okay. And back to the part again, the Mixolydian part. It's not unspecified or whatever. Now watch this. All right, now that part is actually in E Aeolian. Check it out, do the math. That's E Aeolian. So he's already done E Mixolydian, E Dorian, and E Aeolian. We haven't, and that's just the intro, dude. And that's really cool. It all works. And then he goes into this. Mixolydian thing, and that's consistent because we started the song kind of in Mixolydian. The song is kind of basically E Mixolydian, but I showed how he puts E Dorian and E Aeolian in there, and yet it all fits and works. And those are the three modes that are permissible in rock and roll, like I said, and it's all in E, so it's storybook rock, scale, music theory phenomenon. That's all. And then the whole song is great, Strange, beautiful, grass and rain, the majestic silver seas, the mysterious mountains I wish to see closer. That part there. He's actually doing. It's also E Mixolydian, so that's consistent because you have this thing is like an E, but it's actually could be considered a bar of a C sharp minor pentatonic, and then this could be a D. It's actually a bar of a B minor pentatonic, and that B minor pentatonic could be B Dorian, B C D E, which makes E Mixolydian. So that's a bit Mixolydian. But then what does he do? And one part he's done and he goes. I'm playing the bass part there, but that part where he goes. That's all the open strings which make an E minor pentatonic, and if you're an E minor pentatonic, you're in E Dorian. So there he plays E Dorian in the song again. So this part. Part's E Mixolydian, but then when he goes, that's E Dorian. So there he is mixing in the soup up, and it's all in the song. Just check out the book or learn it by ear if you can do that, and that's cool. And then of course the main melody is E Mixolydian, and then when he does a solo, he goes back to the E Aeolian part. My own solo there, and then I went into the part that's after it. But the thing is, that solo is E Dorian, so you're still consistent with my program. You went to and then before the solo was E Aeolian, the part you heard in the beginning. It's E Aeolian. Dorian. And that part's E mixolydian, like I already said. So the solo section basically starts in E Aeolian, then to an E Dorian solo, and then back to E mixolydian for the spoken part. Again, or whatever he does, vocally, and that's all consistent with my thing I'm saying. And this is the bass part. That could be in any of the three modes. It's very generic, like I said. The other lick was. Anyway, and that's the bass part anyway. But it sounds good for a guitarist to play. It's within range, and I like the sound. And then all his soloing is in Wild Things, and he does a lot of dissonant stuff. He liked the G string, but instead of playing a G, he'll go up a half step and play what would be a minor ninth, A flat against G, or he'll go up a tritone above the G. That would be C, G, A, B, C sharp. There's a lot of that in the Star Spangled Banner. He's playing, for the feedback middle part. It's a lot of that's cool. And tritone thing, or even the dissonance of the minor ninth is glaring. Plus the tritone plus an octave is cool. You can't beat some of those dissonances. They're really clever and cool. Plus it's all in one string, so you have to fret and do it. And feedback and this and that. And this is my favorite song. It just has the right vibe to me. My favorite song, and it's ever been recorded on guitar. It was recorded the year I was born, because I was born in '66, but it was recorded in earlier than that, in like March of '66 or something. But I love that song, but it's a perfect example. I mean, as much as a perfect example as I could think of for using Aeolian, Mixolydian, and Dorian all in the key of whatever rock key you're in, and making rock and roll guitar theory. I explained how it starts from blues, combined with European modalism, and basically take my word for it or not, or understand it, which I just showed you how to. If you're in G, play G Dorian, G Mixolydian, G Aeolian, and you'll get away with it. If you're in G, play B Dorian, B Aeolian, and B Mixolydian, and you'll get away with it. Whatever key you're in, those are the three most acceptable and most perfect rock and roll modes for rock and roll. And the only way outside of those is the other four modes, which don't really lend themselves that well to rock and roll per se. On one side, the sharp side, you have the sharper side of Mixolydian within Ionian, but that's major scale. Now you're talking Queen, but they weren't totally rock and roll, but that's cool. Put opera into it, make a major scale, but that's still off center rock and roll. It's special effect. It's unique and special, but it's not mainstream. The other side, the flatter side of Aeolian is Phrygian. And that's used a lot in heavy metal, like Yngwie Malmsteen and Metallica, Megadeth, but that's still not mainstream rock and roll. It's special. Phrygian is a unique sound. It sounds unique, but that's because it's not mainstream. And the other two extremes, even beyond that, is the sharper side of Ionian is Lydian, and that's just like fusion-y, like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani. It's cool, but it's still not mainstream rock and roll. And then the other side, the flat side of Phrygian, even flatter than that, is Locrian, and that's really obscure. It's like Black Sabbath, the first album called Black Sabbath is kind of Locrian-ish. And Locrian, I think that Black Sabbath had a song called Dehumanizer that was in Locrian. And there's songs here and there in Locrian, but it's still not mainstream rock and roll. It's weird. Let's play some weird dissonant minor, flat, 5, weird dissonant stuff. But still, that only lends itself to show my point that the main three modes in rock and roll harmony, theory are Dorian, Mixolydian, and Aeolian. And if you play those three, and in whatever key you're in, and you can mix it up by changing keys, you can pick any one of the three. You can mix two or three of them, even two or even all three of them together. But that's the basis of rock and roll musical theory harmony. Musical scale theory. Okay, I mean, that's what I discovered today. I mean, I'd thought about it a long time, and I've known about this idea a long time, but it just hit me today, how it all ties together. And I said, I made a video saying I was going to do this, and it's still today, because it's not past midnight. I did it. So I hope you guys like it, but just as important, maybe more so, hope you guys understood it. And if you didn't, just take my word for it. Just play some rock and roll. And I love you guys. Rock and roll. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.